Hi, for this session we'll be looking at composite and prime numbers. Let's start with prime numbers. Now you may already have heard of prime numbers before, but let's just make sure we're confident with it. So prime numbers only have two factors, 1 and itself. So itself is referring to the number that you're working with. This also means the two factors are different numbers. Okay, this is very important. So the two factors have to be different. That is why 1 is not considered a prime number, because it only has one factor, itself. So let's look at an example. 7 is a prime number because its factors are 1 and 7. Okay, I can't divide 7 by any other number except 1 to get a whole number. If I tried 7 divided by 2, well, that will give me 3.5, 3.5. If I tried to divide 7 by 3, I'd also get a decimal. Okay, so that's why there are no other factors except 1. 7 divided by 1 is 7. So its factors are 1 and itself. We can see there are only two factors in this example. Now before we move on, let's just make sure we understand these facts and tips. 2 is the only prime number that is even. Alright, that's really important to know, because every time you see a number that is even and it's not 2, for example 4, 8, 20, 22, they're all even numbers, they cannot be a prime number. The only prime number that is even is the number 2. 2 only has two factors, 1 and itself, and nothing else. So also remember that not every odd number is a prime number. Okay, sometimes students see an odd number like 9 and they circle it. Yeah, that's a prime number. No, we know 9 has other factors. We know it's got 1 and 9, but I can also divide 9 by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So 9 has more than two factors. It's got 1, 3 and 9. So it can't be an odd number. Okay? Prime, and we're going to look at what prime factors are and do an example of that. So the next thing I want you to do is it says circle the prime numbers, but just write down out of these numbers which ones are prime numbers. Okay, so starting with my number 1, 1 is not a prime number, so I'll get rid of it. We know 1 is not a prime number. 31, I can't think of any other factors of 31 or other numbers that divide into 31. So 1 is a prime number. 100 is not a prime number. I know 100 divided by 2 is 50. It's an even number, so it can't be a prime number. 2 is a prime number. We just learned that 2 is the only prime number that is even, so 2 stays there. 6 has factors of 1, 6, 2 and 3, so no, not a prime number. 7, yes, an odd number, and we just looked at it before, it is a prime number. 55, I can divide 55 by 5. Even though it's odd, it is not a prime number. And 79, so this one is getting a bit trickier. It's an odd number. That's our first test. So yes, it can be a prime number. Now when I think of my timetables, I can't think of any number that divides evenly into 79. So 79 is a prime number. So out of those numbers, we had 4 numbers that were prime numbers. These all have factors of 1 and the number itself. Now just to make sure you understand why 1 is not a prime number, is a prime number, is not a prime number. If I have the number 1, what else can I times 1 with to give me 1? Well, 1 times 1, is 1. So there's one factor, it's 1. What if I went, okay, what is 1 divided by 1? It also gives me 1 as well. The problem with this is there is no other number that's different. I'm always stuck with number 1. So 1 has a factor, just itself, only one factor. So it can't be a prime number. A prime number must have 2 different numbers. So if I look at number 2 is a prime number because, okay, I know that 2 times 1 is 2. So there's 2 factors of 2, 2 and 1, and there's nothing else. If I go 2 divided by 2, yes, that gives me 1, but I still can only see 2 different numbers, 2 and 1. That's what makes a prime number, when they have 2 factors, 1 and the number itself. So 2, even though it's even, it has 2 factors, 1 and itself, which makes it a prime number. Okay, let's try this question. Write down the prime factors of 14. Now, it's important we understand what we mean by prime factors. So, prime, we know, is referring to prime numbers, and we just had a look at what they are. And factors, we know what factors are. We've learnt them before. Numbers that divide evenly into another number. Okay, so we're looking for numbers that are prime numbers, but also factors. And in this case, of the number 14. So have a go first and see how you go. Okay, so what are the prime factors of 14? So the first step is, yes, find the factors of 14. That would be your first step. So we know how to write factors. First, write down 1 and the number itself. And we know all the factors have to fit in between 1 and 14. Now, 14 is an even number, so I know the second highest factor of 14 will have to be 7. So I'm going to write 7 over here. I know once I reach halfway, I can stop. Now, 14 is even, so there must be a 2, and 2 times 7 gives me 14. 3, 14 divided by 3, no, I don't get a whole number. 14 divided by 4, no, that won't work. 14 divided by 5, no. 14 divided by 6, no. So these are my factors here. 1, 2, 7, and 14. If you wanted to fix them up so you didn't have a huge space, you can do that. But the most important thing, we can see our numbers, our factors. Now, out of these factors, which ones are prime factors? Which ones are prime numbers? So, starting from 1, is 1 a prime number? No. Is 2 a prime number? Yes, 2 is a prime number. Is 7 a prime number? Yes. It only has factors of 1 and 7. 14 we know is not a prime number because I've just found other factors. It's got 4 factors, not just 2. Okay, so let's write our final answer. So the prime factors of 14 are 2 and 7. Always write your final answer and try and put it in a sentence when you're working with questions like these. Okay, now let's look at composite numbers. Composite numbers are basically the opposite of prime numbers. We know prime numbers can only have 2 factors, 2 different factors, whereas composite numbers have more than 2 factors. They have to have more than 2. So 3, 4, 5, and so on. Our counting numbers are made up of either composite numbers or prime numbers. So our whole numbers. So this example asks us to show that 9 is a composite number. Let's try that one. Okay, why is 9 a composite number? Well, what are factors of 9? I know I have to have 1 and the number itself, so 1 and 9 are factors of 9. Are there any other numbers I can think of? Well, I know 9 divided by 3 is 3. So 3 is a factor of 9. I don't have to write 3 twice because 3 times 3 gives us 9. We just write it down once. So I can see the 3 different factors of 9 are 1, 3, and 9. Okay, and there are 3, not just 2. So that's why 9 is a composite number, not a prime number. So sometimes odd numbers can be composite numbers. For our last question for this session, it asks us to write down the composite factors of 8. So we're doing the same thing as before, but instead of prime factors, we want to find the composite factors of 8. Please have a go first. Okay, so once again, I can see my keyword factors. So factors of 8, that's my first step. Write down the factors of 8. So 1 and 8 have to be there. And let's start. 8 is even, so I know that 8 divided by 2 works. And so 8 divided by 2 is 4. So 4 is also a factor. Now 4 is halfway of 8, which means I have found all of my factors. Now out of these 4 factors, which ones are composite numbers? Not prime numbers, composite numbers. Well, if I start with 1, 1 is neither a prime or a composite number, so 1 is not it. 2 I know is a prime number, so that can't be composite. 4 is a composite number, and also 8 is a composite number. Okay, so the 2 factors that are composite of 8 are 4 and 8. I know that 2 times 2 is 4, so straight away I can see it's got more than 2 factors. And the factors of 8, we can see them all here. So make sure you write your final answer. So the composite factors of 8 are 4 and 8. Now it might feel strange writing the number itself, but we know a factor of 8 is itself, because 8 divided by 8 is 1, okay?